Hi, I'm Tony, and today I'm going to show you how to make my lemon orzo soup from plantbasedonabudget.com. We're going to start by using a large pot. If it has a lid, even better. If it doesn't, don't worry. You can also use a big pot or pan to put on top of it. All we need to do is keep that steam inside. And that's what I used to do before I had a pot with a lid or a pan with a lid. I'm going to put it on medium-high heat. Pour in some neutral high heat oil, and if you don't use oil, go ahead and use a little bit of water or broth to saute your veggies. We're going to let it heat up for a couple minutes. I'm going to add in 1 diced yellow onion, and I'm using a yellow onion, but really you can use any onion you have on hand. If you have white, it might be a little bit stronger, and if you have red, it might turn your soup a little bit purple. Gently add in your onion to the pot. Make sure it's done gently so it doesn't splash and hurt you. All my veggies are going in one after the other. Next is going to be 2 ribs of celery diced, 4 diced carrots. Mix everything up so that it sautés evenly. I'm going to saute these for about 6 to 8 minutes. If you have the time, don't try to rush it. I know there are moments where I am in a hurry, and as soon as those onions start to look tender, I am done. If you have the time, it's worth it for the depth of flavor. My last video was the Tuscan white bean soup, and I had purchased a new garlic press, and it flopped miserably. So I'm going back to my old handy one. I've had it for a really long time. It's got no bells or whistles, but it does the job. I'm doing 5 garlic cloves, but you do you. If you want to put a small head in, if you want to put 1, or if you want to use garlic powder, all of those are fine. If you're using jarred garlic, that's great too. I was a big jarred garlic person for a long time because it just saves so much effort. If you're using a garlic press, I like to turn it over and scoop any remaining garlic out. I don't want any of that goodness to go to waste. Continue to stir it in. What I love about this soup is that it's so versatile. You can add in any veggies that are hanging out at the back of your refrigerator, like mushrooms. You know I don't like mushrooms, but if you like mushrooms, you can toss those in right now. I would do thinly sliced or even diced, just like chopped up. And some diced zucchini right now would be good. Or you can also do peas or green beans. Just toss it in, make it really hearty and nutritious. As I mentioned, the soup is really versatile. If you don't have Italian seasoning on hand, that's totally fine. You don't need to add it. It has a lot of flavor already with all the veggies and with the broth or veggie bouillon or better than bouillon. So this is just an extra, and you'll notice that I use it a lot. I try to use spice blends since I am more budget conscious, and I also try to use my spice blends a lot in different recipes so that I get the bang for the buck. I don't want to have to buy an ingredient that I'm never going to use. So I'm going to add a little bit of that in right now. But again, if you don't have this, that's totally fine. Stir it in. Now I'm going to add in some veggie broth. I'm going to make my own using Better Than Bouillon, but you can use bouillon cubes. You can use the cartons, but I like this one because it's the cheapest. It sounds expensive when you're buying it. You look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, it's $5 or $6, but it has 38 servings and it doesn't take up a lot of room in the refrigerator and the pantry. So I like it the best. I'm adding my water in first. Then I'm going to add in a little of my Better Than Bouillon no chicken base. I like the no chicken base because it is reminiscent of when I was a kid. My grandma used to use regular chicken broth. And since I don't eat chicken, I really like this option. But if you don't have access to this one, you can buy it on Amazon and a lot of natural grocery stores. But if you don't have access to it, you can also use the veggie option. I think they have a a garlic one too. That's delicious for my garlic lovers. And you can follow the instructions and do a taste test. As I've mentioned before, I really like to go by my tastes with this. My husband and I have a different palate, so I like a little bit of saltiness, but he does not like saltiness. Let me know if you have a mixed household of different preferences and palates. You've got to let me know how you deal with it, because it's always a struggle. But I found that you can always correct it later. I can go in and add more of this to my bowl or something like that, then go backwards. So that's why I taste it. I make sure it's not too much so that he can eat it and enjoy it as well. And just like a bouillon cube, it's going to dissolve right in your soup. I'm going to give it my first taste. I'm going to add a little bit more. If you don't use enough, it does taste watery, just like if you're using bouillon. So that is why I like to taste it before moving forward, and I just use a different spoon. Next, I'm adding in some super firm tofu. I love it because it doesn't need to be pressed and it has a meaty texture. And all I did was put it into cubes. It doesn't really matter what size, just think the kind of size you'd like to have a bite. If you don't do soy or tofu, or you have someone in your family who just cannot eat tofu, they just can't deal with it, you can also add chickpeas. Or if you're like me and you love adding as much protein as you can to your meals, you can do both. You can add in some chickpeas and some tofu. Stir that in so all the tofu is submerged. And now I'm going to let it simmer for a while so that that tofu can really soak in the flavor of the vegetables and the Better Than Bouillon. If you want your tofu to be even more flavorful, or if you want it to last a long time, you can toss it in the freezer. And what that does is it creates air pockets into the tofu that makes it more absorbent and a little bit chewier. I know that there are mixed opinions on this, so you'll have to let me know what you think, but for me, I like it. I like the chewy texture. I like that it takes in more flavor, and it would be good here. Now I'm going to bring it to a boil. I'm going to cover it with a lid, and then I'm going to simmer it for 15 minutes. Okay, I'm now going to remove the lid and add in some orzo. If you like a really soupy soup, do 1 cup. If you want it to be very hearty, add in 1.5 cups. I'm going to do 1 cup. I had to think about it because I really love pasta, but I'm looking at my soup right now thinking it might be a little bit crowded. I may have cooked it for a little bit too long with the steam, and so I'm going to just do 1 cup. But again, I love pasta, and the recipe that is down below calls for 1.5 cups of pasta. So maybe do 1.5 cups if you also love pasta. I'm going to let this cook for about 10 minutes uncovered. I have turned the heat off, and I let mine cook just until al dente, because, which is a little undercooked, because I know it's going to continue cooking and I don't want it to get too soggy in there. And if you are using greens, now would be the time to toss those in as well. You can toss in some chopped spinach or some chopped kale, baby kale. All of that would be delicious. Even something like a cabbage, a Napa cabbage. And here I will also put in my garnishes, and I used parsley in the last soup that I made, which I'm still eating, and I love parsley, don't get me wrong, but just for the change of flavor, as I mentioned, this is a super versatile recipe. I'm going to put in some cilantro, and it's going to be delicious. So if you don't have parsley, but you have cilantro, you can give that a try. I'm going to add that in right now. And then I'm also going to add in some lemon juice and give it a nice stir. Now I'm going to put it in my bowl, serve it up. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. And I made the right call about adding in only 1 cup of orzo. If I had done 1.5 cups, it would have been fine, but it would have been a much thicker soup. And if you ever get to a ratio that you don't like, you can always add in a little bit more water and bouillon to balance it out. Or in reverse, you can continue boiling it on hot. You can continue boiling it to evaporate some of that liquid, but you do risk the orzo getting a little bit mushy. And here you go. This is a delicious soup. You'll hear me say it pretty much every recipe. I could add a little bit of hot sauce, and I probably will, but it is really good, even with the changes that I made, like the swapping of the parsley with cilantro. Very good. You could try it either way, and you can even hold the garnish until you serve it. So if you're doing a long week of soup eating, you can change up the flavors every day. So maybe one day don't add the lemon, or switch from one herb to the next. So you can do chopped parsley one day, chopped cilantro another day, some chopped dill the next day, and each soup will taste differently. Also, if you're into freezing, I've been loving making big batches of soup and putting them in these freezer molds. These are super cubes. I got them on Amazon. I'll drop them down below, but there are so many on Amazon or anywhere that you can check out, and they're portioned out so you can do 1 cup or 2 cups, and then when you're ready to eat it in a few days or in 3 months from now, all you have to do is put it in the microwave or on the stovetop, and boom, you're done. Eat it with some crackers or some bread. I'm so ready to eat this, can you tell? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more content, make sure you subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!